Welcome back to another critique and correction, and this time we are going to be looking at this image right here. Now, the author has very generously given me the raw file, which means we have the maximum amount of data to play with. We can do the best correction we can possibly do, and we can take this image to the best level. This image can start living its best life at the highest peak that it can, and we'll do everything that we can to create that. So let's get started. Now, you will notice that because I have a raw file, I am in Lightroom. We are in Lightroom because we're going to play with our raw file first before taking it over into Photoshop to finalize this image. Now, we've got a lovely pose here. We've got the shades, we've got the stone background, we've got a nice bit of drama. Now, I think we can really elevate this to the next level. Now, the first thing I commented on, if you did see my critique video, was the color tone. We had the tone quite warm, which was making the image look a little bit muddy. It probably wasn't exactly this, but it's just a guess. And I said about cooling the image down. So by bringing that cooler tone down, you can see that firstly, the stone wall background looks more accurate in coloring, and she's going to pop a little bit more rather than having this weird muddy kind of color over everything. It feels more realistic to where the image was. And reality. Now, I've taken this down to 4,300, technically 4,324 if you want to be absolutely precise, but anything around the 4,200 to the 4,500 range is going to be extremely cool and works only when your styling allows it. 4,500 to the 5,000 range is just a bit colder than normal daylight. So this is quite extreme cool on here. Now, one of the things I want to do, I want to make the face pop a little bit more. I want to tone down the highlight here, which is no fault of the photographer. It is just where the skin is naturally lighter. And I want to crop the image to bring it to its best so she's not just so central and plonked into the middle. So we'll start with the crop. We'll have a look. Now, all of this negative space over here, none of this is contributing to the image whatsoever. And so bringing that in for a start, we're not going to leave it there, but just so we can get rid of that. Now, this side, we've got two distracting factors where we've got the elbow and we've got the edge of the shades coming over to the side. So we can choose to very simply crop those off, or we can just choose to angle them a little bit better, a little bit more generous. Now, something that would have helped in the posing is to have brought that arm over just a little bit more, let that elbow drop down. But that's not always possible. It depends on her height, how low she was sitting. There might have been more complications to that. So firstly, I'm going to bring this image in and I am going to crop upwards a little bit more. Why am I cropping upwards? Because if you've got someone with their head tilting completely to the side, you always want them traveling uphill, not look like they're traveling downhill. Uphill is always more flattering and it makes the image look more realistic. I'm also going to bring, do you know what? I'm toying with cropping this bit here, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with a square crop because by tilting this and adding that square crop in, we've lost this big mass of skin here. Now, this wouldn't have been a problem had she had long sleeves on, but the area of skin on the arm is fighting with the face. We want to be able to see the face. And the same with this area here. This way, we have the hair framing the face. We have the arm leading us up. We have this arm leading us in. Everything is leading us back to that face and leading us to the area that the image was meant to be looked at. None of this wall over here was really contributing. None of the shades was contributing. With a different angle, it could have been, but it didn't really help her. So we've got this nice tight crop now. It gives a bit of an album cover vibe. And I think it's a good starting point for us to start playing with our tones. So you can see on our histogram up here, we have very few in the range of highlights. Drag and drop everything around. So you can see the highlight range is not very much there. So we're going to firstly up our highlights. Now, this is up to our face, beautiful. This is a lovely pop, but the hand down here has gone too much. So I've got two choices. I can go back to where I was and mask the face up, or I can go to where I like it and mask the hand down, which is what I'm going to do. It's the same technique. You just find your preference. So I'm happy there. I'm going to mask this hand down by going into my masking. I'm going to grab a brush. I always grab a brush. Yep, you can do it in a million different ways. There's something about free drawing it that makes me happy. I have highlighted the hand, and I'm now going to use my highlight to pull it all the way down, and you can see how much darker that's going to make the hand. Obviously, we don't want it at the bottom, but by just pulling that down to about here, we can see that it is just toned that arm down so slightly, and we are now looking much more at the face. It has just brought that in line. If you ever feel like doing this or doing the exposure is changing the tone of your image, you can still play with your color temperature. I could warm that up again, for example, like that. And you could also play with your tint, and you can play with your saturation, where you could tone it down if you felt it was oversaturating by doing that. So that I'm happy with. Let's come off the mask. And I think we're going to enhance this face even more, and we want to be drawn in to the face. So let's add a vignette. Now we go all the way down, and under effects we've got and we've got the amount, and I can just turn that down, and I can do that, and that's fine. That's nice. It's pleasant, but it's sort of boring. And I want to be able to move it around. I can play with the roundness. I can play with the feather. I can make it look like an old film. But I'm not really all about this. I don't really want this. So I'm going to go back to my mask. I'm going to add a new mask. I'm going to add a radial gradient, starting from the nose, dragging out, and making sure that my inner circle covers her face and my outer circle is just feathered, which I can choose how much. And I'm just going to oval that and then tilt it round. There we go. Just so I've got the face. And I can then darken. So that's horrible. We do not want this. But when I click invert, it has made the face pop without having to individual select the face. And it has just given a little bit more depth to that edge. Now I can choose with this edge now that if I want to cool it down, I can cool it down. If I want to warm it up, I can warm it up. Her arms are a bit more tanned than her face. So I'm actually going to cool it down. And I'm going to take my saturation down ever so slightly also, because I just want to give that image a little bit of mood, and I don't want to be drawn to some warm tone that is fighting the rest of the image. So I'm loving that. Let's finish with that, and I think that's looking great. Already, we have a lot going on. Now let's make it a bit dramatic. Let's take our vibrance down. This bit is personal preference. This is what I would do with this image. You can go whichever direction you want to do. I'm going to take my exposure up ever so slightly and play with my shadows a little bit, add a bit of drama. I'm quite liking that. I think that looks nice. I might even play with that warmth. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think I'm ready to take that into Photoshop and elevate this to the next level. So let's take it into Photoshop now, and let's see what we can do. I love doing edits from scratch like this of other people's work, because I think it's always really interesting to see what someone else would do with your picture, not knowing your original intent when you took it. Okay, so we're now in Photoshop. We can now get to the nitty-gritty. We can do whatever edit we want. First question I ask myself, what is distracting me? Where do I want the attention to go? I want the attention to go here. What's distracting me? That earring, that bit of hair, that bit of hair. They're my initial distractions. Or half and half, that little bit there as well. It's not that offensive, but these other bits are annoying me. So first thing we're going to do is go down to this little bit of hair here. Now I can select it. I can use generative fill. I can use content aware. I'm going to use content aware because it's quite an easy area. And I can remove that bit of hair. Much better. These bits of hairs up here, let's go have a look. I'm going to use my patch tool. Remove the striking hairs. Removing the hairs that are attracting attention. And that's all quite easy. And then I think we'll get rid of this one here because that one is mildly annoying. And we don't want mildly annoying hairs remaining, do we? Now you got to watch yourself. You can take this to extremes. You can sit there for hours removing hairs that nobody is going to notice. It's very easily done. But you're just looking to have a nice clean image and something that people aren't going to realise too much. There we go. Let's bring that round here and bring that round there. And I might remove this hair frizz because I'm here. Why not? Let's do it. Let's bring that in there and then use my patch tool to even out the area. Let's zoom out. Perfect. Now for that earring. I like those earrings. They're very nice, but they are definitely causing a distraction. So let's use our generative fill with this. Now I'm going to select this bit. I've missed a little bit there, so let's add to it. Now, instead of saying anything, a lot of people make the error where they write in it remove, or don't write anything. If you want something to be removed and you want it to use its own brain, let it have a go, and let's see what it comes up with. It hasn't let me down yet. The only thing I have found is that occasionally the pixels are a little bit mushy in comparison to what I would like. But if I go with this middle one, overall, I think that's looking really good. And it has gone. You still imagine it has an earring. We haven't removed her ear. You just imagine it's behind her hair. Perfect. So now for a face edit. Now, I am not going to go into depth as to how I do all of these. I will just use my regular actions. You'll find these in other videos. But it's more about what I'm doing to this image rather than how I'm doing it for these critiques. I do want you to learn from what I'm doing, but I want you to really look at what made me look at these things, what made me look at what to change. And the skin here, I just wanted to do an overall soften. Wanted to do an overall soften of the skin so that we're not distracted by anything but her beautiful eyes, because I think her eyes and that glisten is the focus of this image. So there's our skin edit. Let's come in and do our eyes. I'm going to use my dodge tool and I'm just going to draw around the inner circle, on here. And using my dodge tool, I'm on 20% midtones. I'm just going to tap. Yep, you should have another layer. Yep, you can do it on a grey layer. But I know what I'm doing, so I am just going to do this quickly to show you the difference the contour will make. You can do it like this if you're really good at it. And you know exactly how much contour you want to add. Because you obviously, when I do it this way, I haven't got any ability to tone it down later. And there we go. I'm going to remove in there. I like that. And just going to add a little bit of highlight back into this arm where I've darkened it, just so it feels authentic to the image. Add a few bits around there. Now this bit is annoying me. I thought I could leave it. I couldn't. Content Aware did a good job. Let's just get that patch out the way. That's fine. I might as well do that bit while I'm there. Overall, that's looking really strong. That's looking really nice. I'm going to hit Control L, check my levels. Happy with that. I think that's nice. One final scan. If I scan around the image, does anything distract me? That distracts me, but you accept it because you know it's piercing, so that's fine. This bit of hair down here is a little bit bright, so I'm just going to tone that down using my burn tool. And as I scan, I've got a little gap there. Let's take that. Might tone this bit down a tiny bit, but it does add depth. Could argue this stripe here, but overall, I'm loving it. I think that looks really nice. I think that's really striking. I think it's really strong. That makes me happy. So I'm happy with that edit. I think that looks nice. Might not be how you would have done it. It's how I did it. So I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys on the next critique.